What is the meaning of To Be Hero X? That's a genuine question, because aside from the slightly confusing lore of the show, most people walk away not even realizing the true message the show was trying to deliver. That message being pain and sadness. That message being Hero X is actually Ness. That message being the reality of fame in the modern world. Since reviewing the story arcs, there's been something nagging me about these three characters specifically and why they're so emphasized by the creators. Then it hit me. I'm both a writer and a YouTuber. I can make money off of well, whatever. I still want to yap. So hello everybody and welcome back to, again, this series doesn't have a name, so Peak Fiction Explained. I will again see how I feel about this in a week. If you've watched the show before, feel free to skip this part, but if you haven't, here's a brief explainer of the anime. I do want to note though that we will be going into spoilers for those who haven't seen the show already, and I won't be covering everything we'll be talking about right now, so I would just recommend you watch the show. Okay, with that being said, To Be Hero X is set in a world where the amount of fans and followers you have, or rather the amount of people that trust you, is translated into superhuman abilities. To Be Hero X Season 1 is basically one massive superhero origin story with each of the top 10 heroes in the show getting their own dedicated story arc. Every year the Hero Commission holds a tournament that will decide who gets to claim the title of Hero X, which in this universe means the #1 hero. So far the position has been held by this guy, who held the title for 3 consecutive years. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into our first, what I'll call, evidence character.
There's nothing I can't counter. I'm perfect after all.
Nice is by far one of the best examples of the writers basically cramming the message of the show down our throat, and it's for one simple reason. Nice is a character that's very hard to feel any one way about. I'm sure that along with the rest of you while watching the show, it's basically impossible to pick a side on Nice. You hate him one moment, and the next you're rooting for him in the same way you rooted for Lin Ling in the first arc. And I want to be crystal clear, I am not talking about Lin Ling. In my opinion, Lin Ling doesn't do as good of a job at painting the story, but he does provide a unique perspective. It isn't a stretch to say that his name is literally indicative of his narrative weight. He is your average commoner given power. He looks at this world of heroes and he sees it in the same light most people who are not in the know see it in. The people at the top are here to save us. Their whole purpose is to protect the people. Why else would they gain so much trust if the world they were building isn't for the sole reason of protecting us? It's idealistic, and that's why it's so easy to root for him. He flips the standard of corruption on its head whenever we see him fight in the story, and he makes it all look so simple. That's the lens most people see fame through, and he's in the story to reflect that. Many people have questioned the purpose of Moon's death in the story, with many feeling that the death was unnecessary. I honestly don't agree with that point. Why people hate this death so much is because it seems unfair, but that's exactly the point. It's completely unfair to Lin Ling, and it's made all the more confusing to see another hero at the end of that barrel, or electronically powered shard. The whole point of this is to open Lin Ling's eyes to the reality of being at the top, because sooner or later when you reach that level of power, somebody will come for you. The reason why the writers chose another hero to do this is because it's even more realistic. More often than not in history, wealthy people who are attacked aren't attacked by people who are just evil for the sake of evil, although that does happen. It's more likely to be from somebody on their side. I would say think politics in this sense. Both are on the stage for the sake of their country, but what's more likely to be true is that these parties are bigger rivals to each other than the enemies or issues they want to deal with. Does that maybe bring any heroes to your mind? Maybe how Nice and Rek are the best of friends and Nice ultimately has more beef with the other heroes than his own wee damn nemesis? Yeah, that's the picture they're trying to paint, especially when Miss J says, "You can't both be X." Anyways, this section is about Nice, not Lin Ling. Gee, you're feeling yappy today, stop distracting me. Anyways, back to Nice. The reason why I bring up Nice is because he is literally a one-for-one representation of a child star. Someone who achieves a high level of popularity at a really young age is an extremely interesting phenomenon to observe. Although you think this would be like being handed a golden ticket to life, it isn't always that simple because a child simply isn't meant to be wielding that kind of power, and more often than not, they don't get to. They are turned into piggy banks for people that are looking to profit off of them and robbed of their ability to be a child. They're robbed of their ability to make the normal mistakes that a child does for fear that it could disrupt their entire life. It's honestly easier to just walk you through what they lay out in the show for us. Nice starts his life looking up to the hero Smile, wanting to be exactly like him when he grows up. While wanting to start that path, he is scooped up early on by treatment and given an unhealthy amount of spotlight. His trust value shot up because of his deal with treatment, and along with that came his persona of perfection. This was just the start of Nice being a hero, and we can pretty much infer everything else that happened to him from that point on. All of a sudden, due to his public presence, he found that he wasn't able to be himself anymore. He could only be perfect, he could only be nice. All of his relationships turned into content and contracts. He became a puppet to the company that had effectively raised him and groomed him into being a tool. And worst of all, he wasn't allowed to be a hero like he'd always wanted to. Once his life had been bled dry, the only thing he had left was being nice, and the only way he knew how to do that was following Treeman's orders. That's why it's so hard to get a decisive view on Nice. If I had to compare it to something, I would say it gives me the same feeling as like a child soldier. They're doing something wrong, but it's hard to say, stop being an asshole, child soldier. Because it's a fucking child, brother. They were raised in this life, and regardless of whether or not it's right, it's all they know. Treeman uses Nice's brand as leverage to keep his morality in check. Receiving power at a young age, being manipulated because of it and used because of it, and not being allowed the freedoms of a normal person. These are aspects of both the child star phenomenon and Nice's story arc. It's sad, but the most heroic thing Nice ever did wasn't becoming a hero, but deciding to stop being the villain.
But it's more than my wants. People trust me now.
Alright, that was kind of extremely sad, but you know what? It's not gonna stop because our next character is Isol. But I will start this section in my typical style and point out a detail that you may have not entirely internalized on a first watch. In this scene, when Yang Chen is texting Jiaqing over the Isol phone number, Jiaqing calls him out for continuing to use the Isol number instead of his real one, even now that she knows who he is. For most, this is just a funny detail, but for me, this is actually really telling. Think about it. Think not only why does Yang Chen continue to text Jiaqing over this number, but why even include this detail? The answer? It's because along with the 1 million other details, this is just one way the creators want to show that Isol and Yang Chen are completely different entities. A detail that Shang Chao points out that is severely overlooked is his observation about why the people like him over the old Isol. He says it's because he's the one who takes his mask off. He calms the public by showing that he's the guy behind the mask. He'll stop a bank robbery and then go give little kids funny hairstyles with his electric handshake. The most important thing about Yang Chen's Isol was that it was Yang Chen's Isol. The moment he put his mask on for the last time, he stopped being Yang Chen completely and just became Isol. The promise he made to Jiaqing to be true to who you are and what you want wasn't just a promise, this was a tracker for the audience. There are multiple scenes where she probes Yang Chen on if this is really what he wants. In the last scene these two have together, she asks him again, and although he initially says yes, he then justifies it by way of his trust value. He says that people trust him now, which if you are an astute viewer, you might recognize that that's not even fucking relevant. What is relevant though is that this viewpoint is exactly what pulls him away from being Yang Chen. If you were left confused by Rock's "all I had to do was set up a table," this is what he meant. All he had to do was get Yang Chen his trust. But once that was done, Yang Chen was the one who dug the grave. He fell into the trap of his own power, his own popularity, and what was once a person with an impeccable sense of justice is now only guided by doing anything to maintain the appearance of justice. In the song that plays at the ending of the Isol arc, Neon Rain, there is a lyric that goes, "Never to see your face again." This brings up an extremely important debate of whether or not this is actually Yang Chen anymore. Sure, the person behind the mask might be Yang Chen in name, but if his face is never seen again, who exactly is he anymore? This is instrumental in figuring out the message the writers were trying to get across with the series because it presents to us the most common trap of modern fame. If you lose yourself to the crowd, you can only pretend that you still know who you are. His path may have been laid out for him, but make no mistake, Yang Chen chose to walk it. He chose being the powerful Isol over the weak Yang Chen he saw himself to be. Okay, we are officially out of the sad. I'm gonna wrap this up on a high note. And to do that, the man, the myth, the legend, the fry cook himself, we have Hero X. Okay, now that that's over, time to talk story. This one's going to be a bit harder to get through to you because truth be told, I've never seen something quite like it. And when we play, we don't stop because truth be told, Hero X is a really hard character to derive a theme from. He has no drama, he doesn't really have a solid story, he's literally just a guy who is the strongest hero. Whenever we see X on screen, it's mostly just because he's there to be in a fight scene or a farm or explain the plot of his own show. Even though it seems like there's nothing here, it just didn't sit right with me to let him go and brand him as just there for an awe factor. Hero X is notably different from every single hero in the story, and to understand why he's so narratively significant, we have to find out what makes him different. This train of thought led me, however, to literally the single biggest indicator of his significance, his song. New type of hero. The point of Hero X is literally to be better than all the rest because he is simply a new type of hero. There's something about the way he moves, the things he does, that simply changes the game. The first thing to note about Hero X is his stoic nature. I don't think I could come up with a character that embodies the emotion of unbothered better than Hero X. This unbotheredness though is really just meant to be a reflection of his confidence. We've never seen X waver in confidence even when enemies show up that might pose an issue. He shows no sign of fault at any point during the story. In a way, he embodies perfection better than Nice does because he's simply better at being himself. And that's it. That's all that makes X narratively significant in To Be Hero X. His sheer unwavering confidence in his knowledge and abilities that make him unbeatable. He doesn't allow himself to be manipulated by a company. He doesn't concern himself with the details of the hero world. He just is a hero. It's not even that he necessarily wants to be the strongest hero. He just wants to be him. In his pursuit of defying fate, he just naturally is the strongest. The overall point X shines on the narrative is that when you act in the world as yourself, for yourself, you simply become a different kind of person. And in the world of fame, it literally makes you unbeatable. So what do you think about this? I'm pretty confident that through everything, this is what the writers were trying to get across to us. To Be Hero X isn't just a cautionary tale, it's an active observation of how the modern world works in regards to fame and popularity. There's actually another layer to this message when you involve Zero, but if you guys want to see that, and more importantly, if you guys want to see more of this style of content, please subscribe and let me know in the comments. So that was the breakdown of the theme of To Be Hero X. I really hope you guys enjoyed it because I truly, more than anything, love talking about fiction and narrative. I would like to give a wholehearted shout out to all of these lovely friends as well as members for being just the best people in the world. The channel's going through a little bit of an awkward phase, but it always helps me out when you guys show up and say that you like the content. Seriously, you guys mean the world to me. You know, I feel like this part is where I should be announcing something. I'll just rattle a few things off just in case. Membership, as always, like and subscribe if you haven't, and I'm streaming Legends ZA on bonus level 0, but that's about it. If you want to keep playing, I'll put a video in the outro, but it looks like there's nothing left to be said, so with that, I bid you peace, my friend.